Are you searching for information on opening a medical spa business and making it profitable within your first year? Or are you thinking about buying an existing medical spa business or even selling one? In this video series, we showed our social media audience how to succeed in their business journey and with sound and timeless strategies we've been using for over 20 years. We've used these strategies to grow aesthetic medical practices to 7-figure sales and beyond. We've decided to post this valuable information on YouTube because these timeless strategies might be just the thing you need to grow your business and succeed in the coming months and years. Let's get started.
I am excited to be here today because I get these questions all the time about starting a med spa, turning around a med spa, how do you know if you're ready and things like that. So what I really am excited to share with you are the 5 top questions, 5 that you should ask yourself if you're thinking about starting a med spa, or perhaps you already have one and you are looking at growing it or turning it around. And those 5 questions are going to be the 5 questions that I ask everyone that comes to me wanting to grow or start a med spa. It's the where, what, who, when, and why. And I'm going to take it in that order to walk you through the kinds of coaching and conversations that I have with my clients that are just getting ready to start or go out on their own, or they're ready to expand and hire new people. So let's start with the beginning, right? The where. I always get questions about location. Location. And, you know, location and competition is all really important, but one of the things I notice is we automatically assume that we need a type A retail space, which is quite expensive. That means you've got a lot of drive-through traffic or businesses around you that'll drive traffic, and the cost per square foot is very high for those. I would tell you that depending on your services and your mix of services, typically our business is more of a destination business, meaning that you don't really need Class A retail exposure to grow a really successful med spa, day spa, plastic surgery suite. The reason for that is we don't often just drop in and get a casual surgery. Now we might drop by to grab products. We need it in an easy to find location. We do need good parking, and depending on if you're doing surgical or non-surgical or anything where people leave looking kind of bad, do you need a back door, a way out that they don't go through the lobby if they've got a lot of, you know, blood or wrappings on them, or if they're being taken out, you know, after a awake minimally invasive procedure, you do take them out to the curb in a wheelchair. So location has to do with, yes, how is the demographic in the area? How is the traffic patterns? Is it easy to find? Can you provide decent signage? But really pay attention to the parking for clients as well as the parking for staff, because that can be a real deterrent. You know, depending on what city or area you're in, you know, is it a difficult office to find based on the parking garages and all of that? I really think ease of use and parking and being able to get out discreetly if you're doing some of those CO2 services or surgical services, minimally invasive procedures, having a back door to go out after a procedure is really great. And that can even be sort of your staff entry way as well. But those would be my tips on location. Now, as far as pricing in location, it is, you know, cost per square foot. Is it triple net or not? You know, are you paying for common areas? Are there any overrides based on your revenue? Have you negotiated a graduated increase over the years of your lease per month? How long will they give you to do the build out before they start charging you rent? Will that owner participate on the build out for you? Or are you buying a location that you're going to do the build out? So when you're thinking about location, you really want to look at overall ease of access, visibility of sign, in and out, and then, you know, looking at budget and what can we afford, knowing that your rent should be about 5 to 10% of your income. So even getting started, it can be 10 to 20%, but you want to really pay attention to that number, which is going to have everything to do with how much money you have to do direct marketing, or whether you're bringing any clients with you, or if you're hiring staff that might have a following of clients to bring with them. So that's the first of the 5, the where. Now you can really negotiate a sweet package where they cover construction, delay your rent to start, graduate your rent, and do a 3 to 5 year type of lease in the commercial area. It's worth talking to someone who understands commercial leasing. Feel free to reach out to us. But if you've never done it before, there are those things to know, and I've just gone over a superficial highlight of the basics so that you feel like you understand a bit more as you look at this. Now this applies to you buying a location as well. You want to consider these same things, whether you're starting up or buying a location or getting the opportunity to work your way into an equity position at a facility that's currently up and running. Our next one is the what. What services are you going to offer that will create the profitability that you need? Because some services are a lot more expensive than others to offer. Are you going to focus on face? Are you going to be face and body? Are you going to do any minimally invasive or invasive surgical procedures? That is based on not so much what the market is looking for, because the market is looking for a lot of different things, but it's based on what are you comfortable doing? What is your passion? What sort of staffing can you afford? What sort of equipment can you afford? Because the more expensive procedures that are $5,000 to $7,000 do typically need equipment that can be anywhere between $100,000 and $300,000. So what is your focus? Are you going to be more of a retail injectable med spa with hydrofacials, or are you going to concentrate on face and body and get more into that muscle building, fat reduction, as well as the injectables? Or are you a full-fledged plastic or cosmetic surgeon where you do want to offer these different minimally invasive awake lipo procedures and maybe things under as well? So if you're a full-fledged plastic surgeon, how much of that space can you dedicate to the what they call the ancillary services? That's your injectables, your energy treatments, maybe your muscle building, your fat reduction things, which all go together. And what I find for a person getting ready to open and being new to the field, it's really difficult to niche down as to where to start, because you feel like, oh, if I have the demographic in there, I should offer them everything. That's not necessarily the best way to look at it, because you really do want to look at what do you personally want to provide, how much can you afford to spend on your different providers, whether you need a doctor or a nurse or a medical director, depending on if you're a nurse practitioner or a doctor or a nurse, what your structure is. And that is going to have a lot to do with the state laws as to what licensing is required. It varies by state. Who can give an IV, who can do minimally invasive things, who can do laser treatments. Even laser hair removal in California and New York has to be rendered by a registered nurse. So the margins are quite thin if you're in like California, New Jersey, and New York. The labor costs are really, really high. So when you start planning your suite of services, I would say first check with the state and see who you need to be licensed at what level to operate the different kinds of services you'd like to do. That will tell you a lot as to how to structure your team. So we talked about the where, and now we talked about the what. In considering the what, you really need to look at what sort of monthly revenue you need in order to drive that rent to that 5 to 10% level, what you need personally to take from the business, and then you look at, okay, if I do toxins and fillers, maybe I see 5 people a week to get started, the average appointment might be $300 to $750. You can start putting your budget together that way with monthly goals, and then look at your monthly goals of what you're trying to accomplish by service area. So let's say injectables, maybe you have a muscle building, maybe you have a feminine rejuvenation type of service, and then you've got your retail. And you want to start putting numbers in and then looking at, if I'm averaging a certain amount per appointment, about how many people am I trying to get in there per month, because that's going to tell you what you need to do for your marketing budget, because there are certain ratios where we know how many leads you need in order to create the the desired result number of clients per week. And that's really important. If you've watched my videos before, you know that a startup will usually need about 5 to 20% for marketing to get it off the ground, to feed enough new clients to your facility so that you can create the revenue necessary to get going and to support you and your staff. So when you're looking at these things, a pro forma is super important. If you haven't got my book, Top 10 Profit Killers, run to our website, Projected Growth Consulting, and get a free copy because it walks you through how to plan your revenue and your expenses. So it's all right there for you. If you want help, you can certainly schedule a consultation with us. This brings us into that who. Now we talked a bit about who's required to do the different services, to run the lasers, to do the oversight, who can own the business in your state, because I have a lot of partnerships that come to me. Maybe one's a physician, one's not. Certain states require all different kinds of structures. Can you own a PLLC if you are not a licensed provider? In a lot of states, that's a no. So then the legal structure can get a bit confusing, and that's really that who. And in the who, you get into what does each partner or person need to take in year 1, 2, 3, and 4, because obviously you don't just open the doors and immediately have $1 million or $2 million facility. So talking about the who, what licenses are required, what equipment startup is required, how much is it going to cost us, and most importantly, how much do you personally need to take from the business to make it worth your while, and by when do you need to be able to replace your salary. Every once in a while, I'll have someone come into the fold and they'll want to get started and they need to replace $500,000 or $700,000 in income within a couple months. That is not a realistic goal for a brand new business starting with no clients. So, it's those kinds of things that we look at all the time and try to help people understand what questions to ask. So I'm talking about the top 5 things you need to consider if you're opening a new med spa or considering buying a new med spa or you're trying to turn yours around. So we talked about the where, the location, and what you're looking for. We talked about the what services and ratios do you need, and what can you do in your state with who. And the who is, what licensure do they need to be able to operate this piece of equipment? How much is it going to cost me in a cost model by staff? What is my return on investment? Which things cost a lot to render and not? A lot of people are scared from doing injectable therapy because the cost of good is 50%. Well, by the time you look at other things that you render, you'd be surprised how many things cost 50%. If you really look at your lease per month and the number of treatments you do and look at the per person treatment, that is, it does happen in this industry. We do have a lot of costs. So if you're going to sign a large lease, you need to look at the return on investment based on some numbers that you create, not just the laser rep. Maybe a company like ours tells you the reality of it as well, because it does take time to get that lease payment covered, paid off to where you're profitable, and then you start looking at your margins on disposable costs and staff, etc. Having a nice description of whether it's face or body or both, surgical, non-surgical, a heavy retail focus, all of those things will go into the marketing and the branding that you'll put in place, the way that you'll sell your services and grow your practice. It does matter what mix of services and where you're really trying to go. And that brings us to the when. If you're going to open up a new procedure or open up a new practice, or you're going to turn one around or purchase one, then seasonality does come into play. Of course, my favorite time to do that would be spring, February, March. Of course, then you'll get that March, April, May, June. Those numbers are incredible. Everybody starts thinking about aesthetic services as you move into summer. Fall into holidays, another good time. The parts that I would avoid would be late summer, and I would avoid the holiday time. So if I work with people and they're thinking they want to open in Q4, I'll often try to get them to a February, March kind of start time, because you will have an easier time attracting clients and growing those clients when you take that approach. So if we're saying the 5s, we've gone through the where, what, who, when, the why. I don't know if you've ever read Simon Sinek's book about knowing your why, but as you decide that you're ready to open up a med spa or buy a med spa or turn around a practice, what is your why? Is it all about the money? Or, are you focused on the right things? Because it does take a while for these businesses to be profitable. And the ones that I find are the most successful are when the doctor or the owner comes in with a true passion to make women feel and look their best. Of course, we treat women and men, but still the majority of the clients in our industry are female. And your desire to create self-esteem and confidence in your clients as well as your staff are really what that secret sauce can be, to create a culture of kindness and nurturing and compassion, but still focused on your numbers and serving your guests and your clients and your patients to get the best from what you have to offer. With your why, you do need to pay some attention to, when do you absolutely need a paycheck, like I talked about before. How much money do you need and by what point? You also need to consider how much it really takes to get that momentum going in terms of pre-marketing dollars, the website, social media platforms, creating a following and getting those new leads set up so that when you do your soft opening with friends and family, you roll right into that paid social and consultations and ways to get clients in the door. It's not if we build it, they will come. There's some of that, but it will cost to make them come. So of course we're looking at where's the best place to put this? Who do I need staff-wise? What services really make the most sense? And where is my passion? Because it's that passion and drive to grow your team as well as your clients to take your practice to the next level or to start one from scratch. And these are those things that you want to look at if you have the opportunity to buy a practice and you think that's the way you want to go. This is the lens to look at things and the questions that I would encourage you to consider as you look at that opportunity. I get asked to do startup coaching all the time. It's one of my favorite things to do because it's exciting, it's fresh, everybody's got their energy. We can start out right the first time or even turn things around. It's just great to come in and roll those numbers out and explain in a step-by-step method what is required in order to create a good, profitable, predictable business model, especially financial, and one that keeps the staff in place and customers happy. So if you're at the point where you're looking at either buying or selling, starting one up, set up a consultation with us. We can go through some basics with you and help you see if you're ready, if you have the budget it might take in order to get something up and running in your particular area. We do know that geographically it's more expensive to open in some places than others, and all of those things go right into the decision tree that you're facing of what do you want to do and how do you get started. So those startup costs for equipment and leases and so forth, you really need to plan for about 6 months of very little revenue coming in to cover your leases, your staffing, and your marketing, at least for 90 days, more comfortably for 6 months. If you go on our website, Projected Growth Consulting, we have all kinds of complimentary articles and tools for you to use. If you haven't yet got my book, go on the website and get a free copy, because this is a step-by-step guide of what we do with our clients every single day. And this will help you regardless of starting up, turning around, or purchasing or selling your med spa.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and click that notification icon to be notified every time we post a new video. And don't forget to grab your free copy of our book and all of the resources we've provided. You can find those links as always in the description below.